Hi, I'm Ann Gaviola. Welcome to the Peak on Global, where we break down what is trending in the business world and what you need to know to stay ahead of the curve. Joining me now is Brett Chang from the Peak Podcast. Welcome, Brett.
Hey, Ann, great to be with you as always.
We finally get to talk about this. The Elon Musk era has only been underway for a little more than a fortnight, but there are some sweeping changes. There's lots to unpack here. Let's start with Musk wanting to move to a subscription model. Now, I personally wouldn't pay for it, but I am well aware of the fact that if you're using a social media platform for free, then you are the product. What are your thoughts on this, Brett?
Well, I think the bigger picture here is that with Elon taking over Twitter, he is now doing a full diagnosis of exactly what's happening in the company. And if he looks at the business model as it currently stands, which was heavily driven by advertising revenue, he just doesn't think that's sustainable. The company, even with all that advertising revenue, was still posting losses after losses. And so he's looking for new opportunities to generate new revenue, and subscription fees are probably the best way to do that. It's taking your most passionate and active users and making a direct profit stream out of them. So that's what he's trying to do. It's not going too well. I hate to say it. And I did subscribe. I did pay for Twitter Blue myself with the promise that I would get verified, and it never actually happened. And they actually just announced today that they're going to roll back that feature entirely. So it's all in flux.
How is it possible that you are not verified? I'm going to have someone contact you about this. Something else to kind of unpack here is, and this isn't surprising because he basically did the same thing at Tesla, but Musk reversed the work remotely forever if you want to option that his predecessors instituted at Twitter. This was back in May 2020. He also laid off about half the staff, but we'll get to that in a second. What do you think about this reversal of the work from home stance, Brett?
Well, there's a philosophical divide in the business world right now where some people think that you can keep up that intensity and stay productive by being in a fully remote culture, while others just feel like you have to all be in the same place at the same time to actually get things done. And Elon is firmly in that camp where he thinks that they're working on really tough things at Tesla and SpaceX and now at Twitter, and that everyone needs to be together brainstorming, building off of each other's work to actually make that happen. And so forcing everyone to come back to the office, it also sounds great It sounds great. It sounds like a great idea, but in practice, it's going to be really tough to execute because there are just a lot of people now post-COVID who just don't want to do that. That's not the lifestyle that they've signed up to. And if they weren't already laid off at Twitter in that first round of layoffs that we saw last week, this actually might be the next round of it, which is people who just don't want to go into the office and are looking for other opportunities where they can continue to live a remote lifestyle.
Yeah, and so much traction during the pandemic for a hybrid model, which is in some cases the best of both worlds, or some people say you get, none of the benefits of either, depends who you ask. Let's also talk about the mass layoffs here. They are massive. I mean, they're huge. They were announced just before Meta, which is the company formerly known as Facebook, also said it was going to be slashing its global workforce by 11,000 positions. Big names in tech are laying off workers and instituting hiring freezes. I truly think that this is a sign of the times, right, Brett?
Well, I think what's really interesting about it is that there are two economies right now. There's the tech economy, and then there's the rest of the economy. And the rest of the economy, we're still suffering with labor shortages. There are not enough workers to fill the amount of positions that we have to fill. But in tech, what you're seeing is a massive cutback as their public market valuations decline. Pressure from investors are forcing them to cut back on costs. And this is what happens, that you see these mass layoffs happening both at Meta, at Twitter, but basically at every other big tech company out there. And I just think it's very interesting how you're just seeing two different worlds. And I think this is what a lot of analysts are hoping for, which is that the quote unquote recession that we may or may not be in is isolated to just the tech industry, while the broader economy stays immune to that.
Yeah, we shall see. There are a lot of people who feel that what's happening in tech is kind of a bellwether for what's to come for the broader economy. And as always, you and I will be keeping an eye on all of that. We're going to switch gears a little bit to a second story that, believe it or not, has been even more fast-moving than the Elon Twitter saga, to the point where it is giving me whiplash. So Binance is the world's biggest cryptocurrency exchange. It expressed concern about its smaller rival, FTX, and announced it was selling the FTX token, which caused the equivalent of a bank run on it. And so FTX was in big trouble. Binance agreed to bail out a faltering FTX, but after looking under the hood, decided it wouldn't be stepping in after all. And then on Friday, news that FTX is going to be filing for bankruptcy in the U.S. What is going on here, Brett? Make it make sense.
Well, it's a very complicated story, and as you mentioned, it's still kind of unfolding. So we don't have all the details available to us today. But you did a great job at explaining what happened on the bank run for FTX.
Thank
I
you.
can't stress how big of a deal this is. FTX is just one of the biggest cryptocurrency exchanges in the world. Many thought that it was going to be the primary competitor to Coinbase, which is the largest cryptocurrency exchange in the US. You saw them pay for sponsorships of arenas. The Miami Heat, they play in FTX Arena. If you watch a baseball game, every umpire has FTX on their uniforms. And if you watch the Super Bowl, there were a number of FTX ads, especially a very famous one with Larry David. So it's a really big deal. And the collapse of FTX is being equated to kind of a Lehman Brothers moment for the crypto industry. And obviously, Lehman Brothers collapsed during the 2008 Great Financial Crisis, and FTX, a similarly sized institution relative to the market cap of crypto, is also going under. They, as we'll talk about, they just said they're going to enter into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So it's a massive deal for the crypto industry, and we really don't know exactly what happened. That we don't know how they got into all this trouble, but it's all falling apart.
Yeah, anytime anyone invokes Lehman, it makes me very, very nervous, and we will have to wait to see in terms of contagion and, who's connected to what. I do want to pull out a couple of things here, though. Binance's CEO made two admissions, which I think frame what's happening in this largely unregulated industry really well. So number one, he says the crypto industry is becoming more resilient. A lot of that is due to institutional money, including Canadian pension plans, investing in these companies, providing some steady hands. But we're also seeing at the same time as crypto winter continues, retail investors are being hurt every single time one of these big names falters.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. The resilience of crypto with institutional money, I think, is now in question, as big investors who poured a lot of money into FTX are now thinking twice about whether they want to continue down this crypto journey that they entered into, especially some of the biggest institutions. And as you mentioned, the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan was a major investor in FTX. Now, let's put this in perspective. The OTTP, they invested just under $100 million. That is less than 0.07% of their funds. So it's not dramatically a big amount. It's not going to directly or seriously impact the ability of teachers to generate a return. But if you're a big institution that's looking at something like FTX, which was considered to be one of the safest investments in crypto, you're really going to have second thoughts now. So that resilience around that institutional money, I think it really is called into question with everything that's going on.
Yeah, a lot of questions as well about retail investors coming back in after they've been burned or have seen other people get burned. If you recall last year, Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen announced equity stakes in FTX. In fact, Brady was a brand ambassador, whatever that means. Bündchen was FTX's environmental and social initiatives advisor, whatever that means. And I think we've said it here before. I'll say it as many times as necessary. Don't take investment advice from celebrities when what they put their money into is very different than, the everyday person.
Absolutely. And this is why, and again, I can't stress enough how big of a deal the FTX collapse is. It was seen by and large as one of the safest places to put your money in cryptocurrencies. That's why all these celebrities got on board, is that they were given all of the reassurances of the company itself, but these institutional investors like Sequoia and the Teachers Pension Plan, that this is a safe place, a safe company to work with. It's above board. SBF was advocating for regulations around cryptocurrency exchanges, which I think added to the protection that retail investors, but also VIPs and institutions felt around FTX. And so the collapse of it, it's just a huge moment for the cryptocurrency industry. I think the big question becomes now, can cryptocurrency return? Is this the end of crypto? There's a lot of people who say no, that they still believe in the underlying technology, but it really is into question now as this all unfolds.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a major hurdle for the industry. And when you talk about something being a safe investment, was it actually ever safe, or was it comparable to investing in a nascent tech company, something with high growth potential, but huge risk and really difficult to value? Thank you so much, as always, for your time and your insight. Such a pleasure to chat with you.
Thanks a lot, Anne. Great being with you as always.
And you can get all your daily business news with the Peak Daily Podcast. It is available for free on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your favorite podcasts.